Another case, another mystery, another child who vanishes without a trace. It's just past midnight on February 14, 2000, in the small town of Shelby, North Carolina, a quiet, rural community on the western edge of the Charlotte metro area, the kind of place where everybody's family has lived for a generation or two, and nothing much happens after dark. Somewhere out on North Carolina Highway 18 in a cold, driving rainstorm, a 9-year-old girl is walking alone. She's got a backpack on. Drivers passing by in the storm catch a glimpse of her and think it's strange enough to remember. A little girl, out in that weather, in the middle of the night. One of them turns his truck around to check on her. When he does, she runs into the woods to get away from him. By morning, her family will wake up to find her bed empty, and Asha Degree will have become one of the coldest, most agonizing missing child cases in American history. For 24 years, nobody would know what happened to her. And then, starting in 2024, everything investigators thought they knew about this case would be turned completely upside down. This is the story of Asha Degree, and unlike most of the cases we cover on this channel, this one didn't stay cold. It cracked wide open. Asha Jaquilla Degree was born on August 5, 1990, to Harold and Aquila Degree, who had married on Valentine's Day 2 years earlier. Asha was the youngest of 2 children, with an older brother, O'Brien. The family lived in a duplex apartment near Falston, a rural community just outside Shelby. By every account, Asha was a normal, happy 9-year-old, a 4th grader with no history of running away and no behavioral problems at school. Nothing in her background that would explain what happened next. On the night of February 13, 2000, Asha went to bed like it was any other night. Her father, Harold, checked on both of his children around 2:30 in the morning and saw Asha asleep in the bedroom she shared with her brother. That is the last time anyone in her family ever saw her. Sometime after that, Asha got up. She packed her backpack, on her own, as far as anyone has ever been able to determine, taking with her a pair of blue jeans with a red stripe, a white long-sleeve shirt, a black pair of overalls, black shoes, a red vest, and her Tweety Bird purse. She left the house and started walking, alone, into a storm severe enough that a car accident occurred nearby that same night. She left no note. Around 4 a.m., 2 truck drivers separately reported seeing a girl matching Asha's description walking along NC Highway 18, roughly a mile from her home. One of them turned his vehicle around to try to check on her. When he did, according to investigators, she ran off the roadside and into the woods to avoid him. That is the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree. Her mother went to wake her at around 6:15 that morning and found the bed empty. By 6:30 a.m., her parents had called the police. Investigators told local media at the time that they believed Asha had walked south on the highway toward Shelby, deliberately taking items from the house with her, which raised the earliest and most painful open question in the case. Had she run away on her own, or had someone been waiting for her, or found her, out on that road? A day after she vanished, searchers found candy wrappers and a hair bow belonging to Asha in a shed near the woods where she was last seen, evidence that she had at minimum passed through that area on foot. What followed was one of the largest search efforts Cleveland County, North Carolina had ever mounted. For about 2 weeks, teams combed the area using human remains detection dogs, horses, ATVs, dive teams, and aerial searches, canvassing the neighborhood and interviewing everyone investigators could find. On February 23, 2000, the physical ground search was called off. It had turned up almost nothing beyond that shed, full of scattered items. No sign of Asha herself, and nothing that clearly pointed toward where she'd gone, or who, if anyone, she might have encountered on that road. For a year and a half, the case sat with no new physical evidence at all. Then, on August 3, 2001, a Burke County construction worker named Terry Fleming was clearing land for a new house and driveway roughly 25 to 30 miles north of where Asha disappeared near Morganton, well outside the original search area. His grading equipment unearthed a black and beige backpack, wrapped in 2 sealed black plastic garbage bags and buried down an embankment near a creek. Inside was a piece of paper with Asha's name and her family's home phone number. Fleming, who says he wasn't even aware of Asha's case at the time, told his wife about the strange feeling he'd had digging it up, and when she heard the details, she immediately made the connection. The backpack was sent to the FBI's lab in Quantico, Virginia, for forensic testing. Investigators eventually confirmed it belonged to Asha, but for years declined to publicly release exactly what else was found inside it. It wasn't until nearly 2 decades later that authorities released photos of 2 specific items recovered with the bag: a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt that did not belong to Asha, and a library book from her elementary school that records show was never checked out to her. Neither item has ever been publicly tied to a specific owner. Asha's mother has also said, in more recent years, that one of her daughter's basketball uniforms was found among the recovered items, a detail that has never fully been explained either. The location, the double bagging, and the sheer distance from where Asha vanished all suggested to investigators that whoever buried that backpack knew the area and had made a deliberate choice about where to hide it. Not a random discard, but a decision. For the next decade plus, the case went cold in the way so many of these cases do. Not forgotten by the people who loved her, but stalled without meaningful new evidence, running mostly on the persistence of local investigators and an annual wave of news coverage every February 14. In 2015, the FBI formally joined the state and county investigation, offering a reward and renewing public appeals. That same year, a tip surfaced describing a dark green 1970s model car, possibly a Lincoln Continental Mark IV or a Ford Thunderbird, with rust around the wheel wells, that witnesses believed Asha may have been pulled into near the spot where she vanished. For years, no vehicle matching that description was ever conclusively tied to the case. In 2023, a Cleveland County Department of Social Services employee came forward with a detail that would later prove significant. They recalled that a local man named Roy Dedman had been involved in caring for an older man, and that Dedman had at one point sent one of his daughters to drive that man to and from a hospital in Morganton in what the employee described as an unreliable vehicle. At the time, this seemed like an unrelated welfare check detail. It would turn out to be anything but. Here's where this case stops looking like every other cold case and starts looking like something else entirely. In September 2024, investigators, the FBI, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, and the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office executed 8 search warrants across multiple properties connected to one family, Roy and Connie Dedman, and their 3 daughters, who would have been teenagers when Asha disappeared. The oldest, Lizzie Grace Dedman Foster, was 16 in February 2000. The middle daughter, Sarah Gwen Dedman Capel, was 15. The youngest, Annalie Victoria Dedman Ramirez, was 13. The properties searched included 2 homes owned by Roy Dedman, an assisted living facility called Northbrook Rest Home that he operated with Connie, Annalie's home in Charlotte, and a property on Hawthorne Lane, all in some way connected to the Dedman family. The forensic thread tying them to the case ran back to that backpack found in 2001. When investigators ran newer DNA testing and forensic genetic genealogy on items recovered with it, the results pointed to 2 people: Annalie Victoria Dedman Ramirez, whose DNA reportedly matched a hair stem found on Asha's undershirt, and a man named Russell Bradley Underhill, the same man the Cleveland County social worker had described Roy Dedman caring for. Underhill is now deceased, meaning he can never be questioned or charged. At one of the Dedman properties, a resident told investigators they had, several years earlier, seen Roy Dedman digging what they described as a chest-deep hole. That same property reportedly had 3 rooms kept padlocked, said to contain Dedman's personal belongings. Investigators seized cameras, journals, children's clothing, a black trash bag, and a rifle from that location. Separately, a green 1964 AMC Rambler with front-end damage was towed from one of the Dedman properties. A car investigators noted has a similar look to the dark green 1970s vehicle described in the decade-old tip, though authorities have never confirmed whether it's actually the same car, and the make doesn't match the original Lincoln or Thunderbird description. Roy Dedman's attorney held a press conference on September 13, 2024, denying that his client had any involvement in Asha's disappearance and asking the public not to jump to conclusions while the investigation continued. Notably, the search warrant affidavits themselves stated that Roy Dedman did not appear to have any prior ties to Asha or her family, meaning investigators, even as they named him a suspect, have never established a clear motive or connection explaining why Asha would have crossed paths with the Dedmans at all. It was in these same 2024 warrants that authorities said publicly, for the first time in the case's 24-year history, that they now believed Asha Degree was the victim of a homicide, and that her body had been deliberately concealed. If 2024 cracked the case open, early 2025 blew it apart further. About 5 days after that round of search warrants, a man named Thad Mellentine walked into the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office with a story he said he'd been sitting on for 2 decades. Mellentine told investigators that back in the mid-2000s, he used to go to house parties and bars with the Dedman sisters. At one of those parties, he said, he witnessed Lizzie Dedman, sobbing, extremely intoxicated, appear to admit to killing Asha Degree. New search warrants made public in February 2025 went further still. They included allegations, based on recovered text messages between family members, that Lizzie Dedman Foster had made statements amounting to an admission that she killed Asha. Because Foster and her sister Capel were minors, 16 and 15, at the time, investigators wrote that they believe adult assistance would have been necessary to carry out and conceal the crime, which is why Roy and Connie Dedman were also named as suspects alongside all 3 of their daughters. Cell phones belonging to Roy Dedman, Foster, and Capel were seized as part of those February 2025 warrants, timed just a day before the 25th anniversary of Asha's disappearance. Investigators said they believed additional relevant evidence might exist on a phone belonging to one of the daughters, specifically related to a possible felony obstruction of justice charge. The following April, a large law enforcement presence was reported at a property in neighboring Lincoln County, again tied to the ongoing investigation. Through all of it, the Dedman family, through their attorney, has continued to deny any involvement. Reflecting the scale of renewed public and law enforcement interest, the reward for information leading to a resolution of the case has climbed steadily, from $45,000 as recently as 2023 to $75,000 by June 2025, to $100,000 by that September, the largest it has ever been. It's worth remembering what February 2000 actually felt like, because it helps explain why a missing child in a small North Carolina town didn't become a national story overnight. The country had just spent the final weeks of 1999 bracing for Y2K, a digital apocalypse that never came. Cell phones existed, but they weren't in every pocket yet, and there was no social media to make a missing child's photo spread instantly across the country. A 9-year-old girl vanishing from a rural highway in Cleveland County simply didn't have the infrastructure in the year 2000 to become the kind of case that captures a nation's attention overnight. It stayed local for a long time, which in hindsight may be part of why it took so long for anyone to come forward with what they knew. As of the most recent public reporting, no one has been arrested and no one has been formally charged. Roy and Connie Dedman are now reported to be separated. Investigators have said publicly that as of early 2026, no known connection has ever been established between the Dedman family and the Degree family. No clear prior relationship, no obvious motive, nothing beyond the forensic evidence tying Annalee Dedman Ramirez and the late Russell Bradley Underhill to items recovered from Asha's backpack. The Dedman family, none of whom have been convicted of anything, and all of whom are entitled to a presumption of innocence, unless and until proven otherwise in a court of law, continue to deny any involvement through their attorney. Asha Degree would be 36 years old today. Somewhere in another version of this story, she grew up. She went to college, or she didn't. She has a career, maybe a family of her own. She's a person who exists in the world, not a case file, not a 9-year-old frozen forever in a school photo from the year 2000. That's the version of Asha her parents, Harold and Aquila, have had to live without for over a quarter century now. And every February 14th since 2000, that family has marked the anniversary of the night their daughter walked out into the rain and never came back. If there's a lesson in Asha's case, if there's anything we can take from a story this painful, it's that time doesn't actually erase the truth. It just buries it, sometimes literally down an embankment off a highway for 20 years. Somebody knew what happened to Asha Degree the entire time. It still took a witness finally deciding, after 2 decades of silence, to walk into a sheriff's office and say something. If you know anything about this case, anything at all, even something that seems small or outdated or unimportant, please come forward. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office and the FBI both want to hear from you, and tips can be submitted anonymously. I'll leave every contact number and tip line in the description below. Asha's family has said, over and over across 2.5 decades, that they will never stop searching, and they will never stop hoping for the day someone brings their daughter home. As the Nooby Sleuth True Crime Channel, and on behalf of everyone who has followed this case, we're asking the same thing they are. If you know something, say something. It is never too late to do the right thing. Thank you for watching this episode of Nooby Sleuth True Crime. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and take care of one another. Until next time, keep seeking the truth. God bless.